we're working on the distributive property. We have worked with this property before, so first I'm going to remind you how it works. Most of the time we'll be replacing at least some of these variables with numbers, but remember that the distributive property means that whatever's outside the parentheses is being multiplied by everything inside. And inside, if I had a variable and a number, or two variables, I can't add them unless they're alike. So I can't simplify the parentheses. So instead, what I need to remember is that I'm multiplying the term that's outside times everything that's inside. So the A is being multiplied by the first term. In this case, I'm just using B. The A is being multiplied by the second term. So I'm just showing that here off to the side, A times B. Now you can just push them together, AB, A times C, or push them together. And this plus that goes in between them comes from the plus that was in here. So if this was a minus, this would also be a minus. Okay, so that's just a little quick review of what the distributive property is. Let me show you how we're going to use it in this lesson. First thing that we're going to do is actually just use some numbers. So for example, if I said that we are going to do 8 times 30 plus 1. Obviously, in this example, we could put these two together. But here's the idea, is that if it's just numbers, we're going to try to do it using mental math. And I don't know about you guys, but if I add those two numbers together, 31, and I try to do 8 times 31 in my head, I might make a mistake. But if I use the distributive property and I do 8 times 30 plus 8 times 1, those are easier numbers to work with. Now this is just sort of practicing the distributive property. I'm not going to be able to tell from your homework if you actually did mental math or not, but I want you to try. 8 times 3, for the first one, 8 times 3 is 24, and we tack on the 0. 8 times 1 is 8, right? So that's much simpler mental math than if we tried to do 8 times 31. So we can use the distributive property to break it apart into pieces to do mental math on. So again, I'm first giving you some examples just with numbers. Now, we're going to reverse the distributive property. We're going to go backwards. What if I said, I want to do 5 times 83, and I want you to do it in mental math. Okay, that's going to be a little hard. Some of you I know can do it. I could do it if I tried real hard, but I don't want to. I don't want to try that hard. So let's try splitting this up. If I keep the 5, we're going to go to the distributive property. Let's break up 83 into two numbers that will be easier to do mental math with. Vincent? Good. What if instead of 83, I say 80 plus 3? Now, just like I did on that first one, I could do some mental math, right? And again, I'm writing this step of 5 times 80 and 5 times 3. Just as a reminder, for those of you who maybe aren't as comfortable with the distributive property, that's what we do, we distribute it. If you want to skip this step and go straight to the mental math, you can skip this line here. 5 times 80, well 5 times 8 is 40, add the extra 0. 5 times 3, 15, final answer 415. I don't know about you guys, but I feel much more confident doing mental math on these numbers than on something like 5 times 83. What if it was a decimal or a fraction? What if I said 6 times 9.5? Do mental math. Yikes. How about 9 plus 0.5? Now let's try to go straight to the mental math part on this one. Right, we see I broke 9.5 into 9 and 0.5. 6 times 9, 54. Bless you. Now, 6 times 0.5. That might be tricky. Think of 0.5. What's its fraction? 0.5 equals, Diego? 1/2. What's half of 6? 3. It might be hard to do 6 times 0.5, but if you think, well, that's equal to a half, 6 times a half, what's half of 6? 3. There's our answer. No calculator needed. What if it was a fraction? Yikes. 8 times 2 1/4. So not even just a fraction, but a mixed number that I would normally say, turn it into an improper fraction and multiply. But what if I say, now you got to do mental math? Can anybody suggest how I could break this apart? Brian?
2 and 0.25.
Okay, now I'm going to start it with 1/4, but then we can do 0.25 if that's easier. It depends on the fraction or the decimal, which one's going to be easier for you. 8 times 2, okay, that's easy, 16. Now this next part, 8 times 1/4. If you think you can do 8 times 1/4 or 0.25, its decimal equivalent in your head, that's great. If not, remember, yep, I guess some of you have it, you have 2, that's correct. But you could always just multiply it. If you can't do the mental math, just multiply it out. I could go across the top, across the bottom, I get 8/4, which is 2. Some of you got that already, so my final answer is 18. So this is using numbers that aren't round and trying to do mental math. If we weren't doing mental math, you wouldn't need the distributive property on this. You just get out your calculator or just multiply it straight up. But for this section, when I give you the problems that are just numbers, look at these examples. In some cases, we're taking this and we're just breaking it apart. In some cases, we have 2 numbers that aren't easy to do, and then we distribute them apart. Now that's with just numbers. Questions on any of those? Podcast, I can't stop. You can sit in the back and learn some more math if you want. We'll be done soon. Come on in. Nice to see you. All right, final examples. Distributive property with variables. This is kind of what I showed you at the beginning, so let me just show you 1 or 2 more examples. What if I say 8 times n minus 3? Let's just practice the distributive property. Remember, I like to do these arrows. You don't have to do them unless you want to. I'm just doing them to show you. We're multiplying 8 times n, 8n. I keep the minus in the middle. 8 times 3, 24. Done. Let's make it just one step different. How about 6 times 3n plus 2? The only thing that's different here is I've got an extra number in the parentheses, right? But I'm still doing this the same way. So when you see problems like this is all we're doing. The book actually says write an equivalent expression without parentheses. And all that's saying is, hey, this is equal to this. And this one doesn't have parentheses. So we're just distributing. What do I get when I do 6 times 3n? Remember, we can multiply anything. We're just mushing it all together and multiplying. Carissa.
18n.
Good. This is 6 times 3 times n. 6 times 3 is 18 times n. And then we do 6 times 2, 12. And we could keep the plus in the middle. Just remember that you're multiplying. It's not 6 plus 2. It's 6 times 2, because the 6 is being multiplied by the parentheses. So that's it. The mental math part, I want you to try mental math. The rest of it, we're just doing this. Pretty simple. That's it.